We know nothing about Breen's fiend physiology.
But we have this refrigerator.
We happen to have a refrigerator unit that's specifically designed for them. Captain Spot, Stardate 1451 14.1. Welcome aboard the Starship's Enterprise, and thank you for joining us as we take a brief shore leave from the world of CinemaSins to explore the universe of Star Trek. I'm your Captain Ian Whittington, and with me as always, she enjoys long dehydrated walks before her sacrifices. It's Ambassador Deneé. Is it weird that I described your perfect Sundays so perfectly?
I am not feeling well. And so
she's poorly. She's got the flu.
I've been sick for days now. But what's wild is I am reaching in my this might bode poorly for the rest of the show. I cannot remember anything about last episode.
Oh, this is amazing. Let's see what you can summon. I'm not going to tell you anything.
So when you said dehydrated walks, and I'm like, I don't know what that means.
What is he referencing?
Was I in a desert? And I'm reaching for like visuals and there's nothing coming to me. I'm completely blank. So today will be a very interesting show.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
I mean, it's a good thing.
We're going to press on. I remember.
Yay.
Okay. Yeah.
I was about to say, it's a good thing that Discovery doesn't really carry on week to week. You can just take each episode completely individually. This will be fine.
Oh, no, I do remember. Yeah.
Before we tax your brain too much, let's jump into some predictions. I'm worried about how fragile you are. We're gonna do this all from Sickbay. Emails. Okay, hailing frequencies open, everyone. It's time for us to read your emails from Discord, Twitter, and email. As I said last week, if there's anything you don't want to be spoiled on and don't want us to pollute your brains with predictions, check the description and skip ahead to 10 forward. I like this first. I like all of your predictions, for the record. All predictions are treated equally, but I do quite enjoy this one as a specific tell for what's going to happen this week. So this week's title is Erigah, and we know that refers back to the Breen Blood Pact. The Breen are hunting Locke and Moll, and the Discovery has just found. They've been told that where Locke and Moll are, and they're going to go and chase. They're going to go and chase after them. So. Wandering Winder thinks that what's going to happen in this episode is that Book will betray the crew of the Discovery and give the Breen all of the clues that Discovery has collected in order to cancel out the Erigah, the Blood Pact, so that he can save Moll, his adopted sister. Big swing. And I think that would be kind of cool, especially since
definitely be cool.
We've kind of seen Book wanting to reignite something with Burnham. Burnham is potentially open to it based on like seeing past Book a few weeks ago. It would be interesting to then throw a spanner in that completely, and it's very much what Book does every season. So it may not be that big a swing.
It?
Yeah, he always is conflicted.
Okay. And not having that information would make it difficult for me to kind of know. But they definitely shoot his facial expressions in a way where you can interpret if he's thinking about betrayal or he's thinking about... it's impossible to kind of read him. I would put him on the same level of being kind of filmed as Raynor.
Yeah.
But they've pulled so far back on Raynor as a character the last couple of episodes that I don't... But there was that one particular episode where I was so confident a few back that he was going to be this nefarious character.
When he has the command codes.
And they were shooting his... filming him at interesting angles, and he just, for me, read conflicted. And sometimes it's just not really clear what an actor is kind of portraying, or it's nebulous for a reason. So I can kind of see Book being filmed in the same way, and maybe I wouldn't have picked up on that level, but like with the history that you guys have, yeah, I guess it's possible, which is kind of scary.
It's kind of scary. I like it. So Book has often been, Starfleet is too slow. Like if we wait to do this the Starfleet way, we're going to miss our opportunity. So he's very much a freelancer maverick, and that actually is an interesting conflict between him and Burnham, because Burnham is very Starfleet and wants to do things by the book, but also has Book calls to this mutineering side of her, which was like where her story began, and pulls into that, well, I want to go and do the right thing, and I don't want to wait as well, but I'm wearing the uniform. It's tricky. But I think that's a really interesting way to kind of kick Book back into the story. I think that would be quite interesting.
Yeah, it would be.
My overall prediction is that we're going to have a big battle with the Breen. We're going to see some big Breen spaceships, and I also think that they're going to end up with the progenitor tech, but I think that they've been following Discovery because they want the weapon, but they're letting Discovery do all of the hard work. You were reluctant to have any predictions last week because you're not super happy on going back to Lock and Mole. But has that changed in the last week?
Considering that my body has decided that in order to have energy, it has wiped most of my memory. This will be an interesting episode today.
It's going to be completely fresh for you.
Yeah. I mean, week to week, we do so many things in between the show, and I watch so much material that it does get a little bit lost, and then I remember my emotions when we sit down to kind of watch it. But I really am a blank slate today. I think for me, I'm just having to kind of let go of any real concrete hope that there was a plan to land this ship, you know, and just kind of watch it to watch it. And it is a bit disappointing, but I haven't watched it yet, so I can't say that for sure. I just don't really enjoy the Lock and Mall, you know, stuff as much. We had so much of them a couple episodes. I had enough of them in their backstory episode to last me for the rest of the season. So I'm hoping that this one just has a sprinkle of it. But I think the predictions are a good prediction. They need to be present for part of the story. What do Lock and Mall do to the characters of Discovery? That's the question. What is the show Discovery trying to showcase about their main characters through these side characters? And maybe it's another book conflict. But I hope that we're just getting to this weapon fast.
Yeah.
But I remember you shaking your head like, no, they're not going to do that.
Not yet. We still got a couple of episodes, I bet. My other very specific prediction is that we are finally going to have a modern show go to Beta Z, because we know that's one of the scientists that they're pursuing is Betazoid. So I think we're finally going to go to the planet. And
you think so?
Yeah, I think we're going to see some updated Beta Zs. I think that's what we're going to do. I think that's going to happen. I would love that. Okay, with that, let's head over to the holodeck to watch Season 5, Episode 7 of Discovery, Erigah. 2 to beam out. Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab
I don't want to be in 10 Forward. I'm sick. You said we were going to do it in Sickbay.
Welcome to Sickbay, the part of the show where we grab a mass injection of cortical steroids.
No. I don't want to die.
Go,
I don't want to die.
Stab. We've put the ambassador on the Breen refrigerator bed, and it's time to share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched. Most important question first, what is your medication of choice?
I guess whatever brought the doctor back from being shot.
I think he was just stunned. I think it was like a stunning, not a full vaporizing.
I mean, then I want that medication. Is that medication or is that just a setting?
It's just a setting. You want me to stun you? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot you with a phaser. Amazing.
It's part of my training, probably. Like, you know how in the military they have to
get tased and
maced?
Stuff? Yeah. Brace for tasing. Brace for phasering. Well, I'm going to have a lemon of 9 or 7 of lime. What was it? Was it a 7 of lime?
7 of lime?
Yeah, I'll have a 7 of lime, please, from Jet Reno. Thank you very much. Give us a synopsis, Ambassador.
Yeah, a bunch of shit happens in this episode.
Fuck yeah, it does. Wow.
In this episode, we have the vision that... No, it's not a vision. In this episode, the Federation and the Breen come head to head because we have to have some conflict to really press us forward. At this point, we need to have something that's hot on our heels again.
Yeah, race to the finish.
Did you want to know if they had been married? Well, now you know that Lock and Mall are married. Do you want to know?
Tattoos don't mean marriage.
Do you want to know what really motivates the Breen? For some reason, they can't kill him, but they also want him to be dead so they could take the throne. Confusing backstories a little bit, but that's okay because we're going to go to a library and that's all that matters now.
Support your public space library, people.
And thank God for the emotional druids.
Yes, they do come and save the day.
I don't know that I really like. Sometimes I try to do a synopsis that's funny, and then I try to do one that makes sense. Because I'm not feeling well, I don't know what I just said, if it makes sense at all. So maybe you should do synopsis this week.
Yeah, I mean, Lock and Mole, you did great. They found Lock and Mole, the USS Lockerer has picked up Lock and Mole. Love that ship. It's beautiful. The Breen want Lock, and we find out it's because he is the heir to the throne. And somehow his uncle needs him to validate his own claim to the throne, but can also declare war if he dies. And I agree, I was confused with that element of things as well. But they do have the next clue, and Locke, in an escape attempt, dies. Mole gives herself to the Breen in order to prevent a war, find the progenitor tech, give it to the Breen, trade it for Locke, and the Discovery has the next clue and has set off to a library to check out a book which might have the next part of the clue. Overall thoughts and feelings, Ambassador. How did you like this just 55 minutes of packed stuff that happened?
I think this could have been the episode that I feel like this is the episode that we needed for Locke and Mole, and we probably didn't need to see their backstory to get there. I happened to watch the previously on section for this episode, and it was recapping what happened in the one that we didn't enjoy, which had, Book and Michael versus Locke and Mole.
Yeah, and the emotional separation force fields.
Yeah. And that little quick recap gave me everything I needed, which just only solidified and reiterated my dislike of that episode because so much of what was in that was padded.
Mm-hmm.
And
it felt like a massive info dump, didn't it? It was like, you're going to need this later.
But I don't know what we learned in that made this episode better. I can't think of something. And again, I'm maybe not in the best mental state since I'm unwell. But what this episode encapsulates so much that I could have derived at any point, so, like his status, their love for each other. At one point, you've got Mole, who is being asked to come back and see Locke before he dies. And the way that the actor is emoting is everything that you need to know about how much she cares for him. I didn't need to see the backstory of them falling in love to understand her devotion. Like everything about these two characters can be extrapolated from this episode. So this episode makes me hate the other one even more.
I think I agree. The only difference I'd say is the big reveal of the fact that we're looking at the Breen, and the big revelation that Michael has that this is the Breen and the Two Faces thing. And I think that could have been incorporated somewhere else as well. I think you're right. I think a lot of the stuff that happened in that episode, which showed us how Locke and Mole met, it's spelling out stuff that we don't need. Like, this episode told us a lot about the bounty, and we know why there's a bounty. We can get how much they love each other from their actions. It is a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it? When you compare it to that episode.
The episode that we don't like. What was the name of the episode? Let's figure that out. What was the name of that episode? Mirrors. Okay.
On the ISS Enterprise. Yes.
Mirrors' existence makes me dislike this episode in this way. I think I like the episode overall, but the reason I'm struggling with it is because it feels like repeated information. So in a very packed episode where we have negotiation conversations between Breen, we have Raynor backstory, we have Book trying to figure out where he belongs in the story, we have Tilly thinking about leaving and then staying, we have mysteries we're trying to unlock, two different elements of the mystery, one based on the clue, one based on the language. We have Locke and Mole, we have another ship showing up, and so we have new people that are interacting. There's a lot going on. The last thing I need is a reminder of what I already know about these characters. And so it kind of took away from it, I think, in a way. But I wonder if there's anybody who would do the experiment of not watching Mirrors and then literally just eliminate that one. The only thing you need to know is that they get the next clue.
Yep. That's it. They have the clue. Yeah.
and then watch this episode. And I'm really curious if anyone would do that experiment and tell me if they think that they missed something, or if this episode would be then too much because they would be processing more Locke and Maul. But because these two characters are, in my opinion, throwaway, toss-away characters, I don't need to keep a bank of who they are and why they exist in their backstory, because I can just kind of like let that be, it is what it is. I'm more interested in the main characters. So it was a bit distracting to me, and I kind of found myself checking out a little bit because I have had my fill of them in mirrors. I think I like it though, because we're seeing so much action again. And I think that's where maybe this series sings. And we had so much fun with the action episode recently that we just were gaga over. And this one had an interesting pacing inside the ship the whole time. You know, we didn't really go to a planet. We were having conversations in the hallway. We're having conversations in sickbay. We're trying to solve a crime. We're doing all of these things. We're kind of moving around in the ship, or I guess at the Federation headquarters or wherever they kind of are. So there's a lot kind of going on, and I found that to be really fun. Plus, then we get to the action where there's fighting and there's an escape and tensions are high. Some of it was a little bit convoluted, like the Breen's motivation and
monarchy, hierarchy, patriarchy thing.
Yeah, and then like how what was difficult in that moment, and maybe they should have spent more time on that instead of mirrors, is because I wasn't quite following why they couldn't just kill him to ascend. You know, that was a little confusing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Why him being kept alive is so valuable if the uncle is wanting to rule. You know, like.
Yeah, I think it's to validate a claim on the throne.
Okay.
It felt very Game of Thronesy.
Like you have to prove he's still alive and then you can kill him?
Yeah, no, okay. I'm honestly, I don't know. I feel stupid. This is one of those things where the episode made me feel stupid because I didn't quite follow exactly how Locke was meant to be helpful. Like, isn't it better to have him dead so that the uncle can take it? But I imagine it's just to hold him hostage and pretend that owning him... I think it comes down to like this tradition thing is really important for the Breen. So even if Locke isn't willingly there, the fact that you have him means that you have the power of the Emperor.
Because there was, for me, also a little bit of like looseness in understanding their hierarchy, because they even explain themselves that it's hard to understand. So they're trying to make sense of the Breen while we're trying to make sense of the Breen, while they're also fibbing the Breen.
Yeah.
So what is Michael and Madam President saying that's true? What is not true? I don't understand how what they're saying in those negotiations is being interpreted. Like, I get that they did this big bluff with the person that Rayner knew from his planet.
Yeah.
But that was like walking into one of the last 3 episodes of a D&D campaign and trying to figure out who all the characters are and their like political motivations before a fight, you know? And it's like, oh, I really can't understand all the stuff that's happening. I just have to kind of sit back and watch and enjoy it. And I think I was sitting back and watching it and enjoying it. I mean, the other thing is that then you have Maul also trying to take this moment to her advantage and survive, and they're trying to figure out her motivations.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of watching people figuring stuff out today.
Yeah, this episode has to do a lot because it has to like make the Breen scary if you don't know who the Breen are, so that their intimidating presence means something. You've got to introduce the conflict between the Federation and the Breen. You've got to problem solve, get to the solution, overlay the mystery, the progenitor tech that we're still pursuing as well, overlay the Locke and Mole stuff, and then some double crosses along the way. Like, pacing for me isn't an issue in this episode. Like, it does so much. It covers so many different bases. And it also has to bring Locke's story, for now, to a close by killing him off, and he makes his pointless sacrifice.
His pointless sacrifice. Yeah.
And I think that's where I land on why mirrors exists. I think it's because, obviously, the plan was to kill Locke off at this point. So I think they wanted to have more time with him and more kind of like emotion from him. Like, the most emotion you see from him is during mirrors, where he has that conflict about taking his helmet off, showing his face to his uncle. Like, that, if it's not about connecting to Locke and Mole as a pairing, I did get more connection to Locke as a person during that episode, and I wonder how I would feel about his death if we didn't have that. Would we feel like there was something a little bit missing? Moll, I think we have plenty and plenty from. Their relationship is well cemented, but him as an individual, I think that's what we get out of Mirrors.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that.
Which is what tweaked me onto he's going to die. I was like, oh, he's dead. Like,
yes,
that's when I made my prediction, like, he's going to die. It's like, oh, that's the only reason we're spending so much time with this new character is because we're going to kill him.
I think that there is a chance that Star Trek on a grander level here is trying to will bring him back as as the leader of the Breen, giving the Federation an in with the Breen as a group. And so we might see this character appear in like other series or things like that. So this is kind of like an origin story for a character that they're really wanting to embed in their canon so that they can kind of, you know, have a new Klingon-esque vibe.
I'm so glad you made that comparison, because my favorite thing about this episode is how they've made the Breen like the Romulans. Like, that's my comparison, is that this reminded me of some classic TNG episodes where you have a standoff between the Enterprise and a Romulan warbird, and that is a stand-in for this tension between the Federation and the Romulan Empire. And this like kind of not warmongering, this like wargaming and brinksmanship, this chess match that you have going on. That's the first time I felt that in a long, long time. Like, I felt the Breen have that presence of the Romulans and be that threat to the Federation. And I think Admiral Vance, absolutely, the actor, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but absolutely sells that fear. Because right at the beginning of the episode, he's like really shaken when he's talking to Burnham. He's like, you gotta go, we gotta stall for time. He kind of panics because he's the head of Starfleet. He's just holding together this newly reformed Federation. He's got his ships that have warp drive now. And within a year or two, he's on the brink of war. And he's just like, I don't want to do this. Like, it's too risky to go to war with the Breen, and we have a history with them. We know what they're capable of. So,
well, and it's weird too, because I'm kind of like wondering if there's something more like an undertone here. The implication could be that, like when Michael said, "How are they tracking us?" I'm thinking, is somebody on the inside working with the Breen already?
Yeah, is there a spy? Yeah,
but I don't think that this episode is obviously going to hit on that. I think they're just asking some questions.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of like, don't sin us. This is how they found us.
Maybe so. I think the writers really would have a hard time. You know, they're the ones that know the overarching implications of their story. They know the threads that they're trying to make sure that we're holding on to when they make this beautiful tapestry of all of these different fabrics coming together, and we're going to sit back and look at it. Like, they want us to see a specific pattern in what they're weaving. Yeah. And so obviously Locke and Moll are characters that they need us to look at. And even though I don't want to,
understandably,
Mirrors made us do it. And then now that we have the sacrifice and we have Moll, you know, going over to the Breen, and they did, I think they did a good job of presenting the Breen as an imposing, you know, group. But as those writers, it would be hard. And this episode, I think, suffers a bit from it of, we want to give everybody this information. We need them to have this information by the end of the episode. So if we're all taking notes during this episode, we have a very full book of information.
It's a big old lore dump.
And if someone was to say, what's the most important part of this episode to you, everyone might look at their notes and go, I don't know, actually. I think that obviously the Breen is important, but like, they did a lot of sprinkling of information on just about every character I think that we're meant to remember. I mean, even Saru was mentioned again.
Yeah, what Saru's doing,
Yeah, so there was a lot coming at me, which I enjoy. I like being treated as an intellectual viewer, and I feel like this episode asks you to be really engaged and kind of absorb information. But I wonder if they could have maybe not been heavy-handed, or I'm not heavy-handed might not even be the right, because I don't think it was too much, but they maybe could have pulled back a little bit on some things to give us more of other elements. But overall, I think I enjoyed this one. It was a lot, but I think I really enjoyed it.
I'm with you. I really enjoyed this one.
Even we got to see really fucking cool like exterior shots in this episode too.
Yes, we did. There's a great
kind of a
shot,
feast,
like
really.
when the Breen show up, the Breen Dreadnought shows up, and it makes the corridor dark. I was like, oh, that's nice. I like that. That's nice.
Well, and we have that really fun shot of the shuttle caught in the beam.
Oh, of the USS the USS Lockerer.
Lockerer.
Yeah, Lockerer. The Mitchell's there as well, but they have a different mission. But the Lockerer, these new 32nd century ships are so pretty. Like I love this. It's
really
so smart. The design is really cool.
And that's where I think we need to remember that we talk about the writers a lot and the directors and the actors and stuff, but these graphic design artists or these artists who are
this show is gorgeous,
giving us a feast at times.
Yeah.
There are some really beautiful visual effects that are happening in this that it just makes me so happy that we get to watch sci-fi.
Yes. We live in a time where this isn't just reserved for the movies. This is a TV show. Like, it's a wonder we get these tiny seasons and it's hard to justify renewing them when we put so much into like how beautiful they are. Like that scene with when Book is doing his telepathy thing with the
library card.
The library card, thank you. Yeah. I think that's great. I love the way his face glows. I think that's beautifully done. That scene of finding the clue was really well executed and really pretty.
You know, I'm old enough to remember watching sci-fi content and it would have been painted. And we had these
TNG.
Amazing artists to paint things.
Uh-huh.
And they would paint the details and they were probably so much more detailed than what the old cameras could pick up.
Yeah.
Now we get these exterior shots where you're seeing this really awesome floating. Is that Federation HQ?
Yes.
That's sort of,
Yes, that's their new
cool.
starbase. Yeah.
I didn't know what that was.
Weaving thing. Yeah.
I
the
thought
honeycomb.
that we were going into Breen territory to get some sort of like fucking refrigerator or some shit.
That's the 32nd century Starfleet design.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like buttresses that are sort of curving. It's just gorgeous.
I don't know how you walk around it, but it's very pretty.
It's huge. And then you have the dreadnought showing up and then you're like, well, no, that's huge.
No, that's huge.
So anyhow, and the backdrop of it is this sort of amber nebula thing.
Yeah.
And then you have all of these little ships in front of it. If someone were to paint that, it would have to be huge canvas to get that much detail. And we're just so lucky that we have these high-tech computer programs that can put this just microscopic detail for us to pick up on our HD screens and our 4K OLED Qs stuff. I don't know. I get where sometimes I remember the pacing. Like when we watch TOS or we watch TNG, the pacing is so different.
Yeah.
And then you watch this episode or you watch Lower Decks and you realize you experience a different kind of storytelling pacing.
So different.
This is this would be such a whiplash to watch like an old TNG and then watch this back to back and just be
so different,
pummeled with visuals and all of the things we experienced. I think ultimately this episode, one of the reasons I like it is because I felt like we were progressing, and at a moment in a series like this, there's episodes that can kind of dip down, and I needed this to start to feel like it was picking up. And we had an entire episode dedicated to one clue last time, and this episode is dedicated to the next clue while also overlaying over this 17-tier cake that we're supposed to just eat in one bite. And it might be a little bit too much, but I liked it.
Part of me wonders, like, is there a world where this is close to episode 1 and this is almost like our starting point where
I would love that.
We find Lock and Mole, we're kind of dumped into like this Breen thing, and this race to get the progenitor tech is between the Breen and Starfleet, and just this like tiptoeing back and forth between war, and then you can trickle in the information about the Breen monarchy and the Primarch and how all of that is happening, and still have like the little side adventures with Locke and Moll. I feel like I want the Breen to be a bigger part of this, and they should have been from the beginning. I'm not saying how they're doing it now is bad, but there's this what if in me that's just like, would I be more excited if this had been like Breen from the beginning? Based on like how well they've executed the Breen in this one.
Yeah, I think I understand maybe why you would be more interested in it, because we can see the enemy or we can see the pressure. Whereas our unknown, like our pressure in this one is just to get to the tech before somebody else does.
Yeah, it's this nebulous thing of whoever Locke and Moll give it to will be bad. We don't have... And at the same time, the show clearly wants us to root for Locke and Moll as the underdogs as well. So there hasn't really been a specific opponent for us to focus on other than the Breen. And they're only really showing up now. But the show wants us to love Locke and Moll.
Exactly. So
that's the problem.
They're not easy to hate whenever they spent mirrors, you know. They've shown us how dangerous they are. And I think that that could have been fun. You know, we wouldn't have met Fred though, so
Oh, of course we could have met Fred. Absolutely would have met Fred.
Yeah, it is interesting also to consider that it makes Raynor obsolete. It makes, if they had started here.
He was so shoehorned into this episode anyway. Like, huge shoehorn. He was just the emotional backstory ex machina to give them an idea. That could have been anybody. We need to give this story to somebody. Raynor hasn't done anything in a little while. Let's give it to Raynor. It didn't need to be the Kellerans. It didn't need to be him. So he's still feeling a bit lost.
My thought was, like, if this was the start of the series, we don't need Raynor to be introduced because we have somebody else to focus on.
Correct.
I think what we're experiencing is that Discovery is trying to continue to develop their world while also not realizing that their world is going to end. The season is coming to an end. And
I think that's what I would have loved. Like, man, what if this is establishing the Breen for like season 6 and for season 7 and just how they become the threat and the new Romulans and stuff like that.
And Raynor would be the new, it's establishing something that would have continued on. It's not... and
that would have been really cool.
This is part of why I wish that we knew about cancellations at the start of seasons.
It's cruel, isn't it? It's so cruel.
A series had a beginning, middle, end at the start, and maybe we would have only had 4 seasons of Discovery instead of 5 or 6, whatever it looks like. But like at least the people who are buying it are agreeing to see a story fully out.
Yeah. I mean, this is what it's almost like you shouldn't turn art into a business, because this is the problem, isn't it? The business side of it doesn't have to care about the art. It doesn't matter if this story is unfinished, because 10 years we'll have forgotten about it and we'll be on to the next thing that's making profits.
And they're not wrong.
There is no obligation to finish a story other than human decency. Like, well, this isn't fair to the fans and whatnot. And Star Trek, we're lucky. I think we're at a point with Star Trek where there is enough brand commitment where you can't fuck with people. Like, you can, but you shouldn't fuck with people like that. Super tangentially, NCIS Hawaii has just been cancelled, and they didn't know they were being cancelled. I think it's the end of season 2, something like that. They literally end the season. I was reading an article about this. They end the season on a cliffhanger that is now never going to be resolved. And the people that are really invested in that show won't get that resolution. There's no obligation. It's just cancelled, on to the next thing. And it just feels so cruel when business gets in the way of just completing a form of art.
There was a time that I wouldn't watch a television show or pick up a book that had multiple, like a multiple series book until it was finished.
Yeah.
For that very reason.
I think that's what people are scared of. Yeah.
And that's been happening for a while. There is a difference between a favorite show being canceled and being bummed about it, and like you still have some time to process it, and they have time to kind of go back and craft it. And I feel like Discovery had some time to maybe go back and craft. I think we know that the last episode maybe got some zhuzhing to sort of maybe put some bows into place. And I've been worried about that ever since finding out. And I think this episode, again, is showing that they really did expect this to go somewhere. And so if this is a setup for next season, this is a great season because they're doing the right thing. They're introducing Raynor at the right time. They're giving us a chance to kind of get to know him. They give us a couple bad guys. They give us a really cool, like a brand new like enemy, because like Maul and Locke are bad guys, but the Breen are enemy, and that's a different kind of vibe.
They're the
So if I'm looking at the story so far, I'm really having a good time. But just knowing it's the last has given this a different critical eye, and it's sort of hard to
I think it's bittersweet.
It is.
I think it really is, because this is what I'm so interested in as a Star Trek fan, is what happens after TNG, what happens after Deep Space Nine. And I know we are 800 years after that, so I'm technically getting my wish, but seeing this new galaxy established and who the players are, like the Breen are now like they've risen to power. They seem to be a really influential force in the galaxy. The Orions, the Emerald Chain, have their corner of the galaxy as well. No idea really what's happening with the Klingons, Romulans. Well, we know that the Romulans have merged with the Vulcan. Don't know what's happening with the Cardassians, really, the Klingons. And just establishing these little pieces of what the galaxy looks like. That's what I want from Star Trek. That's what I want to know about. So it's bittersweet that, yes, we're getting a Starfleet Academy spin-off. Yes, there might be other shows set here, but that's not guaranteed.
Nothing is guaranteed. And, you know, there's, I think that's as consumers of any kind of entertainment, there's no guarantee that what you enjoy is going to linger. You just hope that the people behind it are thinking from the perspective of their favorite fans and trying to give them the best beginning, middle, and end. Every piece of media is going to come to an end. Every piece of entertainment is going to come to an end because the creators behind it are going to at some point have to stop. And so I think that Discovery is doing a great job. I like being told after the fact, hey, this is the last one, has got to hurt everybody involved. And I think every person on the project would think, well, if I would have known that, I would have done so many things differently.
Of course.
And so I don't want to fault them for it, because I need to remember that this is probably a setup for next season more than it is in like the last season story. So for that regard, what a great episode.
And I think overall this is turning into a really, really strong season. And if they can stick the landing with 8, 9, and 10, and I have a lot of confidence that they can, now that we have the Breen as this, the impetus behind the rest of the season, and like this drive. And we have that foreshadowing of, if they get it, we've seen a snippet of that future and what it looks like. So that's really cool for me.
I like how this episode has, I mean, we know that Maul and Locke are crafty, and they've done such a great job of peppering those facts from the first time we see them, with their setting up their escape route so that it causes it blocks their path, blocks the path from them being able to follow. They always seem to be like one step ahead. They cover their warp signature. She can't be tracked. Like they
take big swings, big risks.
They're very, very clever. So I love that they end this episode where Maul very cleverly shifts over to the Breen. Like, I don't want to be in Star. I would rather be on your guys' side. And that's such an interesting thought, that they know she's so smart and clever to try to use everything to her advantage. And it does give this really strong feeling of, oh shit, we're in for it. The next few episodes are going to be really intense, with the Breen trying to outpace them, and they have a massive enemy that if they're going to survive, you know, if they're going to have to be so clever. Their ship is microscopic comparatively.
I know.
So that kind of intensity to take us through the last episodes, I hope feels really fun.
I also like that with their big swings and their every plan feels like a Death Star run. Every plan that they come up with feels really desperate and just like, Kobayashi Maru, let's go. And I like that this one backfires. It doesn't work. Like, because those big swings can't work every time. They're big swings for a reason, because there's high risk, high reward. And the risk of this one doesn't pay off, and it kills Lack. Like, there's lots of ways that he could have been killed that would have been irritating or disappointing. This one, I think, was actually the best for the story. When we got to like his deathbed, they have the Breen medic next to him, and I was like, oh, he's probably going to get cured. And I'm like, you know what? I think the more interesting thing for this story is if he dies. And I was just sat there like imagining I was in the writer's room. I was like, how do you not kill him at this point? Because what does that mean for Mole? What does that mean for the Breen? what does that mean for what Discovery has to do? I was like, it's so much more interesting if he dies here. So it's one of those occasions where, yeah, it was predictable, but I still think it was the right call, and I'm glad that they killed him at this point, and I think it's the right thing for this story, which is interesting.
Accidental self-inflicted
death. Miscalculation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's the perfect way for him to go and to still progress the rest of the story.
Yeah, I think so too. There's a lot of elements of this story that they presented in this episode that I keep kind of like popping around because they really went from this to this to this to this to this
so many different threads in this episode.
Yeah, but that element in particular, I think, is fine because the Breen are going to try to blame Starfleet for it. Starfleet has an actual genuine, like, we didn't do this. I mean, a sin for that moment is just like, well, fucking bring up the video cameras. You know that this is a starship. You know, you can be like, hey, just play the log back and show it.
Well, I do love that the Breen was like, intent doesn't matter, it's the result. So I was like, I don't care if he accidentally died, he's dead. I don't care.
Yeah.
So let's dip quickly into the next step of the mystery. I like that we didn't spend a huge amount of time on the problem solving for this one. We had Adira and Tilly doing their thing with Reno, which was just the most sinful thing that I'll talk about is that element of the mystery when we get to the sin. But it is still a great use of Jet Reno and Tig Notaro. It's so... everything she says is just absolute gold. And yes, it's convenient that she has all of the knowledge. We'll get to that. But it is fun. I think it was a fun way to keep this bit of the story progressing and having... Stamets and Book working together as well on their mapping of it. I think it did just enough to progress here's the next clue of the mystery while not detracting too much from the momentum of the Breen stuff. How did it hit you?
Convenient.
Yes.
You know, but most of the technobabble, it seems convenient for me anyway. You know, every time that there's a mystery to solve and they figure out a way to do it, I often, while in Discovery in particular, find myself going, okay, whatever.
Yeah, because this tech is so far ahead.
Yeah, I do like that they didn't spend a lot of time attempting to solve the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was surprised with how long it took for them to think about Betazoids being able to like be telepathic, though. That was the first thing that I thought about.
You think Zora might say, hey, by the way, Doc, try this.
Yeah, that's I think that part was so minimal in this episode. I'm trying to think, like, as far as like the thicker slices of this cake, we obviously have the Breen and we have Locke and Maul, kind of bigger chunky slices. Another kind of bigger chunky slice for me where they seemed to spend more time was, you know, Raynor's backstory and how it interacts with the Breen. And then also that's next to the part of the cake that's political. And then the tiniest little slices would be, I guess, the mystery.
Yeah, the actual mystery.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, like, how did you feel about Raynor showing some teeth again? And, like, he is, like, back to aggressive in all of these meetings, and it's obviously because he has a history with the Breen. Did you like seeing that side of him? Was it frustrating? Did the backstory work for you?
I need to see that side of him because that is who he is. If it's not there, he's been neutered far too quickly, for lack of a better phrasing. You know, where his gusto should still be there. He's just attempting to fill the role of second in command because otherwise he's not on a ship. I think he wants to be a part of it, the mystery and the intensity and this mission that's so secret and so important. He needs to be a part of it. In the last couple of episodes, we've seen him be more like, yes, sir, no, sir. I'll watch the helm for you and babysit while you're gone, Captain, doing things that captains shouldn't be doing. But in this episode, he comes back to the forefront, and I think it's needed. I like this part of his character, and I kind of thought that he wasn't too far out of line, honestly. I feel like...
No, I completely agree.
I was confused when he was corrected. Yeah, when they're sitting around the table for their debrief with the
Tarina.
Yeah, Madam President, Michael, and then Vance.
Yeah,
is it Vance or Vance?
In America it's Vance. In England it's Vance.
with Vance, I did not think he was out of line in that moment. I thought he was sharing an important element, but maybe the point of that was that they understood that and we're moving on now, and he was sticking to it.
Yeah.
For me, it echoed Strange New Worlds Gorn all over again.
I had the same feeling, but I think it's because he mentioned something about a brood, like a brood planet or something. It reminded me of
his
that
planet.
like the vindictiveness of the Veen felt very much like what's her name?
I know, I couldn't think of it either.
Oh, La'an.
Nice pull.
Strange
Good
New
job.
Worlds, yeah.
And that's to me where I immediately thought, this is the La'an character who has had personal experience with a very dangerous alien race that we don't know a lot about, who has a lot of important information. And every time La'an spoke about the Gorn, it was cataclysmic.
Yeah.
But the difference is Pike believed her. And this is where I think it's so important to recognize that each show does have a different vibe in how the crew and the captains interact. And I love that. They all need to have a different sort of operating structure MO. Or just a fingerprint that when you look at a poster, there's a vibe that you get. And this is my first imprint with Discovery. And when I have a moment like that where I can do almost a tit for tat comparison to Strange New Worlds and that crew, my difference is I believe that she was really altered, but I felt like, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't remember correctly, but I felt like Pike and the crew were really learning from her. And they're like, we need to understand, we need to trust that this person, whereas in this case, they're kind of dismissing him. And that bothered me a little bit because I didn't feel like he was saying like, we need to attack them. I think he was like, we need to show power. And they're like, we need to show democracy and diplomacy.
Yeah. I think Vance and Tarina, to defend them a little bit, are terrified. And they know that Starfleet is in no position to be fighting a war. So in this case, diplomacy is the only option. And I think Rayna's stance scares them, and I think they shut him down more than they would if they were in a position of power. And it's down to Burnham to actually dig in, because she's lacking the same galactic context that Vance and Tarina have. It's up to her to dig in and say, okay, I get where you're coming from now. What can you tell me? What information do you have? Because the stuff that happened on Kelleran is stuff that Vance and Tarina do know about. Like, they know that happened. So they should know what context he's pulling from.
I think that moment, again, was designed to just not spend too much time. But she could have said, like, Booker or Michael could have said, your perspective is noted. And then keep him in the room to move on to the diplomacy part. But instead, she dismisses him like he's a toddler. And I felt like...
yeah, I'm with you there. That didn't feel good.
I felt like it was just a little too far. She's keeping Book close when he's done more damage, apparently, than Rayner has. You know, when she defends Book and for being somewhere he's not supposed to be and wanting to press in, she's like, he's a good man. And I got this. I was like, fuck Book. I don't know this guy. But why are you treating Rayner like the outside man? And that, to me, telegraphed that they want me to maybe think that Rayner's not the greatest character, but I still am really enjoying him over Book personally.
I think he's more interesting. Like what's interesting about Rayner is that he has the restraint of the uniform that Book doesn't have.
Right.
Like, Book's just like, fuck it, I don't have a job, I don't work for you people. Rayner, Starfleet is very much all he has. So he has to fight this maverick, I know best, I'm going to do what I think is best, I'm going to be aggressive, and balance that with only being a commander, with being in the Starfleet confines and being in the uniform, but that's still being the best place where he can influence things. Like, that's why I think he's most interesting. Like, he knows the most impact he can have is with Starfleet and with a ship, but he still is confined by how Starfleet does things.
Then there's this odd moment where Michael kind of indicates at the end that if she were in his position, she would have mutinied.
I think she was like, yeah, I relate to you. Yeah, I relate to how you're feeling. Yeah.
But
Because
she
the
even
Klingons really fucked Michael.
Exactly. So she should have, of everyone, the most understanding of his passion. I guess she just knew in the moment to dismiss him. But that scene in particular was one of my least favorites.
I agree, because it feels like the stuffiness of Starfleet is getting in the way of the conversation. Because he said, I stand by everything I said. I apologize for the tone. So if you're just talking about tone, there's a bit of me that's just like, suck it up.
Adapt to it.
Okay, he's talking directly. Fucking deal with it. We're talking about life and death stuff here.
Exactly.
Let the man be passionate.
Exactly. And I think that that's part of it for me as well, is I do take it personally because there are I'm a direct communicator. I don't often think about how tone can be taken differently. And my intentions are just to like be a passionate communicator. And I can say something directly and not recognize that someone could be crushed by it because I said it so confidently or whatever. But I am open to conversation. It is very difficult for me to just pretend and be like, oh, well, let's talk about our feelings. And let's talk about our feelings. Let's get it out. Let's like hash it out. That's how I was raised. So I think I relate to that Rayner-esque type character. And I'm just thinking to myself, so you guys can, you guys know how to stand in front of a Breen who is very aggressive in their communication. And granted, they're not part of Starfleet, but like, Federation or whatever. Like, you can handle yourself there, but with your colleague, who was, his entire planet was fucked by these people, you can't let him be passionate for a hot minute. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time on it, but that was really big bother to me.
No, I'm with you.
And the idea of like the Rayner stuff, the political stuff, all of those things that kind of more like that's the next kind of thicker part of this cake. I thought that they handled it well. And I thought that it was interesting to see their attempts at negotiation and their attempts at diplomacy and the fear that they had. And I felt the tension of them entering the same room.
Yeah, I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was, they did enough to build up the Breen. And I think they lent back on they referenced this last attack quite a lot, and this is an attack that we've actually seen. This happens in Deep Space Nine, where they find out that the Breen have sided with the Dominion during the Dominion War, and I can't remember exactly what happens, but basically the Breen turn up on Earth and they attack San Francisco and Starfleet HQ, and they manage to fight them off and stuff. But that's what they meant by like when Vance said, well, we were on the back foot at that point, we weren't expecting that to happen. The Breen have this history of when they want to fuck around, they will. We are lucky that they have been neutral for most of history. They've basically been doing their own thing, not getting aligned with anybody, the Romulans, the Klingons, anyone at all until the Dominion. And there's kind of this subtext of thank goodness, because they have technology that's really scary to us. So I think they pulled back on those strings from Deep Space Nine really well, but it's really cool to see that you felt the tension as well, not even having that context. And I think so much of that is in Vance's performance. I think he sells how afraid he is of a potential war. I think he absolutely nails it.
This episode needed the transparency of them amongst themselves.
Yeah.
Because we didn't just see Vance. We saw Tig's character going, they're here. We saw Tilly ready to abandon ship. We saw one of the scientists who was working with Book, can't remember his name, the husband character.
Oh, Stamets?
Mushroom Man. Yeah. We saw him sort of go, we got to stay and solve this clue, because the last thing that we can do for all of mankind is right before we die, transfer our information to the next person.
Send this code over to the Mitchell.
So it's wild to think that all of that little peppering of information led to that interaction working, because their tension, it wasn't overplayed. It was just there. And there was a transparency amongst each other to be afraid. That worked too, because in that tense moment in that room when they're all like confronting each other, our team is having to put up this facial front that they're not afraid. And if we didn't have the peppering beforehand, we wouldn't, we're watching someone act about being scared and hiding it, and it might not work as well. But I felt the frailty of that moment. They are pulling off a big swing for a bluff. That was kind of working for me.
That's a classic Picard maneuver as well. Bluff the Romulans. Like I loved that bluff. Yeah, he would always there would be a bluff or some kind of like overplaying of a hand, and then sometimes he would come in clutch with an actual like kind of solution. But a lot of times it was bluffing the Romulans. Like, will they really attack if I have this in my back pocket? That's one of the things I really, really enjoyed.
It did. I mean, it worked for now. You know, it worked. Your point about the Breen, like that they haven't really sided with anybody, it makes this episode even more interesting to me because the Federation has now poked the Hornet's Nest.
Poked the Breen, yeah.
Because they lied, and they're eventually going to figure it out. So unless Locke is resurrected and becomes the leader and keeps them at bay,
they kind of need Locke.
They need that character to sort of put a little cork in this hole that they just poked in the Hornet's Nest.
And he has no interest in being the Primarch, which is
unless
interesting.
Maul isn't. I mean, like, unless maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting. Before I forget, we mentioned the Mitchell, and I believe, I'm 99.9% certain that the USS Mitchell is named after Kenneth Mitchell, who was a big person in the Star Trek community and played a lot of like different aliens. He played a human once as well. And he passed away in February of this year after having ALS for a number of years. But he was active in the community and at conventions right up until the very, very end. So yeah, it's cool to see a USS Mitchell. I think that's a lovely tribute. There was one element of the Rayner cake that I wanted to get back into, and it was the backstory with the Kelleran stuff. I get it. It felt tacked on to me, and I think I understand why it felt tacked on, because I think this is a better payoff if we know it happened before this episode. Like, if we know that Rayner has a history with the Breen, when we find out that Locke is a Breen, and if we somehow find out how to have this conversation about what the Breen did to his home planet, I think that pays off more in this episode if we already know it. Whereas you have to introduce it in this episode, and you're like, you know you're dealing with the Breen, why hasn't this come up? Yes, he says, I don't like to talk about it. But I think Rayner is more integral to this story if we know sooner he has a history with the Breen.
I'd have to go back and watch the previous episodes, because there is a moment I feel like when we knew the Breen were involved, but maybe not. Maybe we didn't know. But Rayner's character has been very serious about how important it is to act and be tactical.
We've seen him tense up for sure.
But I wonder if that was the undertone, the implied undertone this entire time as to part of why he's so serious. It would be like watching La'an going like, nope, not fucking around, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure it is, but it wasn't implied enough for me.
Right.
For me, it felt like it isn't. They definitely knew about it and they planned it, but because of how it's delivered, it felt tacked on. I just think it's more impactful if we get this out of Rayner sooner. Like, we only have a few episodes left now to really feel this from him. But yeah, that was my maybe a little bit nitpicky, but I think that's how
he's not going to matter.
Rayner's not going to die. He's probably going to die. Final thing, we are heading off to the Badlands, which is a place that we've seen in Star Trek before. This is the place, the nebula that Book has imagined. It's where they think the space library is going to be. The Badlands was Voyager's very first mission. The Maquis had been hiding out in the Badlands because it's so stormy and dangerous. Voyager was sent to basically find some of them and find out what they're doing in the Badlands, and that's when the caretaker picks them up. And I think it's also where they pick up the Equinox as well. So we know that this is just a place in Star Trek history that's kind of fun for me to revisit because it's what kicked off Voyager's adventure.
Oh, interesting.
And I think it's near Bajor as well. So I think it's near the wormhole.
They go back in time and they actually see the Voyager. Maybe that's why the Voyager got spit out in the first place. It's actually Discovery's fault.
It's fun to revisit the Badlands, and I wonder if there will be any Voyager nods or touches in there. Yeah, super interesting. I like revisiting these places.
There was a telegraphed moment in filming where we saw the mystery book a couple times. Do you think that has somehow been snagged? Because we saw that they got it from Maul, and then we should talk about this real quickly. The captain of the other ship in those few scenes where she was around, she was so fucking badass. I loved her.
Who?
The one that like kind of confronts Book, and she's
the security woman. No, yeah, she's Commander Nan.
I love
she's
her.
I think she's with like Starfleet security
I love
or
her.
something.
And they're like security jackets are like all black, and they're just like they're like
she's
super
great.
cool. Yeah, I love her.
She was a member of the Discovery crew.
Okay.
Left the crew when something happened in season 3, and she left to be with her people, the Barzans, and then she rejoined Starfleet, and she's part of security. She's badass. She's so cool.
I really liked her. There was something about her, and I think it was needed, and she both respected what the captain said, but also was just like, yeah, I was nice to him because of you.
This is my turf.
Yeah, yes. I loved it. I loved it.
She's
so
great.
She hands the book to one of the people that's guarding the door, and the camera pans over to it again. We don't see the book again for the rest of the episode. So I'm wondering if there was something about the book that was going to come into play. It didn't that I know of, but it seemed like it was telegraphing that someone was going to snag that book.
Well, the brain needs something because they don't have any of the clues, and they know that they're after the progenitor weapon. Yeah, does Moll have it? They need something, otherwise they're literally just following Discovery, and there's going to be, like, Discovery knows there'll be a conflict. Like, there's going to be a fight to get the progenitor clue.
That fight scene was so shaky cam
hated
and
it.
zoomy.
It's the sins.
Yes. But I wonder if we watched it frame by frame, if secretly we see Moll grab it.
You could tell me you could tell me anything happened in that scene and I would believe you because I didn't see it.
She painted the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, that absolutely happened in that scene. She solved all of the math that has ever happened. It's a great character. She's really, really cool. And the Barzans are really interesting as well. I wonder if we'll touch on them. Right. Okay. With that, let's head over to engineering to do some. No, sorry.
No, I don't want to leave. I'm still not feeling well. Can we just stay here?
Yeah. We're just going to beam to just over across the room, if that's okay.
Okay.
You need to go through the biofilters again. Black alert.
Black alert. Black alert. Black alert.
This is the part of the show where we engage our sim brains and remind ourselves that no TV shows have outseen even our beloved Star Trek. I'm going to go first because I got sick and dizzy and vertigo. Discovery does a lot of shaky cam fighting. Modern Star Trek does a lot of shaky cam fighting. It was probably at its worst during the Commander Nan and Moll fight. I liked seeing Culber fight. I think that was quite interesting to see his combat skills. The shaky cam fight between Nan and Moll, though, was unwatchable. The camera was spinning, there was fog, there was 1,000 cuts. I was like, just don't have a fight scene, just skip it. It was so distracting to me.
Having watched the fight scenes in Mirror and some other fight scenes, I feel like it was kind of a style that maybe Discovery has, but this one stood out so starkly to me, and I wondered if it was because it was such a sudden thing, and it was spinning cameras. We did cartwheels. I
just want to imagine the camera person. Imagine they've just got the camera on a rig, just fucking spinning it. Just go, put it on the gyros and just put it around, put it on the ceiling. It's just a mess.
It was messy. It was definitely messy, but a lot of really cool camera shots happened in there. So I liked some of them. There was one in particular where their hands came together and the camera went over it, almost like a rainbow pattern, like this arc pattern over the top, and it looked really cool. But because on either side of it, it was a different angle and a different perspective.
I'm gonna be sick.
It was very jarring. Yeah, I did not enjoy that.
There's just easier ways to do it. I would honestly rather watch the fighting in TOS.
I really was distracted by a couple of things in this episode, and let's start here. So they can't find Moll when she escapes. Book is trying to find this mystery, and then the fucking computer system just tells Book what's going on. Is nothing like can anybody just ask a question and say, hey computer, whatever her name is, what's going on? Zora. She's like, well, there's a security breach.
Well, wouldn't you like to know?
Let me just spill all these secrets. I did not. Has Book been given massive security clearance to be given that information so freely?
The answer is if you're important to the plot, then yes, you'll be given that information. No, there's no reason for Zora to tell him to spill the beans like that.
And it also, in the previous scene, they're like, where is she? And it's like, Zora, fucking tell them. They're the ones that are looking for Moll. Tell the fucking security system. If you see, she's like, there was this panel that was just accessed. Fucking tell the security system.
Yeah. And I guess she does because Nan is there as well, because Nan meets up with Book.
Nan
so I'm
says
guessing
to
she gets
Book,
told.
thanks for giving me a heads up.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
Zora,
not
what
even.
are you doing?
It's not even the computer. This is what I'm thinking. Like,
What are you doing? That's
so
amazing.
that really bothered me that the computer system is the one to
nice
give Book
catch.
the information, when I think that would probably all be high level security. But I'm going to go ahead and say this then while I'm thinking about it. I understand that the security team that shows up or whatever is there, but the captain is sharing highly secret information with them freely. Like, they're on the most secret mission you can have. There is a fucking infinity room that they go to. This is insane levels of important that nobody knows stuff. And the security team shows up and they're like, yeah, this is we've got the next part of the clue. We're doing this.
Like
and
an
this.
end of the universe, my people.
Why are you talking about any of this to anyone that's not just on the Discovery or Vance or the guy that's in the White Room? There's I'm so confused about the security of this mission, because even at the end, I think the security woman that we were just talking about, the really cool one, she, I believe, gives an update as to like where they are with the clues.
Yes.
And I'm like, how does she fucking know?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, there's a lot of open communication. No wonder the Breen figured out where they are. They're yabbering
leaking,
about it. They're leaking everywhere.
On open channels. It's like some of their crew is going on to fucking Reddit and just making posts.
Star Trek Reddit and just talking about it. It's amazing.
So cool. Got to see Breen today. Looks like there might be thing. Totally
Ruffle.
lied about this emperor. Blah blah blah. Like
El Mayo.
So there's just no care for security in this. And I might be totally wrong. So someone correct me. But
I think you're right. I think there's some loose lips sinking
really
ships.
Annoying.
Yeah. Speaking of really annoying, I'm glad that Locke died. Mainly because I was infuriated that Moll is escaping again. Like, how bad are you people at your jobs? You should be just hanging your heads because these people keep escaping in the most contrived way. And I'm glad Moll has to turn back, because I would have been so pissed off if she stole a shuttle and they were again on the run. I'm glad they weren't, but it came too close. When Moll is doing like the distracting thing so that Locke can do the injection stuff, I'm like, nobody who securities for a living is watching this. Why have more than one guard if they're all blockable from the same angle? Like, Locke isn't restrained enough so that he can't do this. How about you don't even keep them together? You know how dangerous they are. You know their strength is each other. Keep Moll really separate from Locke.
My favorite part, or to your point, was when Michael says to the security Nan, she's like, keep both eyes open. And Nan looks away from her target. She's like, yeah, I will. I'm like, you're fucking not right now.
You're not doing it right now. Like, when you have a conversation that is, these guys are slippery, extra security, keep an eye on them, and they still escape, I'm not impressed. I'm angry that you people are bad at your jobs.
Yep.
This isn't even Discovery security. This is a dedicated Starfleet security team
It's
that
insane.
has been outsmarted by the most basic shit.
Yep.
Oh, it's infuriating. I'm glad he died. Oh, and to that point, this isn't how our story ends. It is. Ding.
Ding.
It is.
Actually, probably isn't, since they're going to come back
It probably
again.
isn't, yeah.
I don't think I have much more, honestly.
My big convenient one was, let's just ask Zora, hey, is there anybody in Starfleet that might know about ancient books and shit?
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yes. There appears to be somebody on the ship. It's Jet Reno. I was like, really? I just looked directly at the camera for convenience. She just so happens to have padded her CV with knowledge of ancient books that gave them the clue. I'm just like, when the mystery relies on that, all hope is lost. What if she's not there? Do you not get the clue? It's so rough.
That was very convenient.
Yeah. All of the convenience. But I gave us a scene with her. She's incredible. Every word she says is gold. 7 of lime. Just, she's a bartender as well. She should have been the bartender. She shouldn't be an engineer. She should have been Guinan. That's what she should have been. What else did I have? The other one was, it is the year of our Lord 2371 when this book is written. and there's no digital copy. I know it's the point, and like the author deliberately only published a few thousand copies and had the original manuscript. I don't know in what world it isn't digitized. I don't know how you publish something.
Would do it. Even
exactly.
if in the beginning it said, please don't digitize because this is the point. I want this to eventually go away. Somebody would be like, yeah, I'm doing that anyway.
You either make 10 copies and that's it. But they said it was a few thousand copies were published. I know that's not much, but it's still a few thousand opportunities to digitize it and to put it somewhere in an archive. It stretched my ability to believe a little bit. Convenient green fridge cooler. We know nothing about green physiology,
but we have this refrigerator.
We happen to have a refrigerator unit that's specifically designed for them. Let's go and pick it up at Federation HQ.
It's so weird. It's so weird. Like, just lower the temperature of the room. You have temperature controls.
Specific.
Why does it have to be that? Yeah.
We know nothing about them, but we have this very specific piece of medical equipment that will absolutely help us in this situation. It's amazing. I'm fine with them not knowing a lot about brain physiology. That's fine. But this refrigerator unit, Jesus. Let's move into some very quick predictions. Welcome to the Captain's...
She's pregnant.
Who? Moll?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Welcome to the Captain's Ready Room, where we hear our predictions for the rest of the season.
I don't want to be in the ready room. I want to stay in the sick bay.
Let's beam back. Welcome to the sick bay again, where we just talk about predictions and shit and everything. I've just brought some hot cocoa to the ambassador.
Thank you.
Next week's episode is called Labyrinths. Now, the title of the book was Labyrinth of the Mind. Are we going to be stuck in some mind puzzles? I think we're going to be stuck in some mind puzzles.
Yeah. Maybe we go inside of Moll and she realizes she's pregnant.
It could be. There's an extra life form in there that she's communicating with. It's possible. I do want to give myself a shout out for predicting that Luck would be the one that dies. Pat on the back. Praise me, Ambassador.
You're patting yourself on the back. You don't need praise from me.
I want your pats as well. Pat me.
Pat.
We did not follow Wandering's. I think it was it Wandering's prediction that Book was going to be betraying and whatnot. That didn't happen. Great swing, but didn't happen. Book is just very, very irritated. I think he is going to, in the next episode, take a big swing and try and rescue Moll from the Breen. Like, there's no way we've seen the end of his unhappiness with Moll ending up being traded to the Breen. Any thoughts about what we're going to do in the Badlands next episode? Give us a Deneé prediction. Wild, and it will absolutely happen.
No, because I'll end up describing another Star Trek episode.
That's a given.
I think we're going to see some character that people are excited about being projected into someone's mind. Because when you're doing a lot of like mind play stuff, if we are going to be kind of stuck in a labyrinth and trying to kind of navigate, they're going to be seeing images, and so the show has the freedom to put images into their minds. So I think it's a fun opportunity to see a beloved character or a nod to a character, or maybe they're seeing characters from their own past. So if it's Michael, maybe she sees Spock.
Yeah. It'd be a great time to like bring in Ethan Peck and just be like, hey, you're on the wrong path or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Or saving her from herself somehow, keeping things. It would be fun to think about that if they don't do well, they could lose their mind, like you're going into this place and you have to get through it. So, but the clue has to be given by some kind of a power, which means there's something that exists like that would give the power. So I'm really curious about next episode.
Yeah. I'm excited for it. I think the library will be some kind of Mind Palace labyrinth thing.
If it is Moll going into the Mind Palace, maybe she convinces the Breen that she has to be the one to go to prove herself. So then we get to see her. Yeah.
I think we're going to have a Book and Moll kind of chow down as well. I think we'll have another one of those.
They're going to have a shared brain meld where they get to see their dad.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a dad conversation.
Well, that's going to happen.
I'm sorry, daughter. I'm sorry.
That's going to happen. Oh, no, I'm less excited. What did you do to me? But I did get it completely wrong. We didn't go to Beta Z this so... And it doesn't look like we're going to Beta Z next week either. My big swing is that we'll see the Bajoran wormhole near the Badlands, because it's near like the Bajorans and whatnot. So seeing the wormhole, or maybe that's where the next clue is. It's in the wormhole. Ooh. I would love that. Well, with that, thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us, Ambassador, as you were so poorly, so sick. You did a great job.
I hope it doesn't distract anybody too much from the show.
No, you did a great job. If you want to email your predictions to us or anything else that you want to talk to us about, send us an email, captainspod@cinemasins.com. Join us on CinemaSins Discord, discord.gg/cinemasins. There is a vibrant Star Trek community talking about everything Star Trek, sharing memes, jokes, predictions, spoilers, and the like. Join us over there. And until next week, I'm Captain Ian. I have to go and say Shady Antiquarium Archivist 5 times.
And I love you because of our differences, not despite them.
Ugh, live long and Podsper.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Check, test. Check, test.
Checkity, chitties. Checkity, check. Well, in a complete hard left turn, last week we were coming up with we wanted some candy puns, and this was in the outtakes, and the listeners did not disappoint. Deneé, would you like some of the suggested candy puns?
Okay, first of all,
make you so happy.
Just super quick. I'm so happy because sometimes whenever I do an ask like this, I feel like I'm imposing on our audience.
This was no imposition.
You guys are listening to this show, you're hopefully having a good time, and then Deneé's like, hey, stop what you're doing and write fun content for us.
Yeah, do this for us.
I feel like I feel like every once in a while it makes sense to invite you to participate. And sometimes I've learned that people will not participate unless they're given an invitation. So when I ask for an email, I'm very aware. I'm trying not to be like imposing. So I'm super happy because not only did you provide some, but it must have been, I don't know, a good invitation. So I can't wait.
It didn't quite stick to candy, but I'm okay with that because I like portmanteaus.
That doesn't count then.
What do you mean it does? You can't applaud them and then lambast them for not sticking to the rules.
Lambasting means that I'm bashing, and I'm not bashing. I'm saying that if there's a whole bunch, you only have to mention the ones that are candy based.
No, I'm going to mention my favorites. Flyboy gave us a hortangerine flavored candy.
Wow.
Slab went with triple truffle. Has a nice sibilance to it. Or Borgberry Blast, which sounds like a Mountain Dew flavor.
Borgberry Blast.
Yeah.
That berry would be a blackberry.
Yeah,
so
it would turn
oily,
you into a blackberry.
So that like when you chewed it, like your tongue would turn sort of a dark purple. Yeah.
And just like veins dribble out of your mouth.
It actually turns your veins like a different color. So
yes.
you can see that you're being assimilated.
Oh, that would be amazing. That's totally possible. Willy Wonka should get on that.
Illegal.
Totally illegal. Wandering Windus says, if we're expanding to non-candy, we already did. It's fine. A Romulan Remulade.
Okay, that was funny.
That's good. I like that. Sci-Fi Brainy went above and beyond and gave us a whole list, and here are some of my favorites. A Bajorange. It's great. Bajorange. We got Black Alert Licorice. That's nice.
Like
That's good. This is a deep cut. I like this one. Galactic Barrier. And the Galactic Barrier is something the Enterprise has to fly through in the original series. And I think it's in the Final Frontier, so the Galactic Barrier. I love that. This one might top the list. A Tangerine.
I know this is not a visual show, so I'm really enjoying your absolute joy as you're reading these.
Tangerine. It's so great.
Keep it together, Captain. Get to the list.
It's Tangerine. Lemon of 9. It's amazing. Would you like your dessert to be Lemon of 9?
And she kind of has like a lemony personality.
She does.
Not intentional. She's just very direct.
There is more Lord of the Rings movies coming. Did you know this?
I did.
What do you think? Do you know what the movies are? Like how deep? I never know like what pop culture news hits you.
I really loved the Rings of Power series.
Yeah.
And it made me nervous because when they were coming out with it, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna watch it. They spent so much money on it. It's got to be something, right? And I think did we watch it for work? We watched it for work.
We sinned the first 2 episodes, yeah, but I think we were going to watch it anyway.
Well, that's the thing though. When I'm a really big fan of material, sometimes I don't want to watch it because I have a vivid imagination. Not everyone does, and that's okay, but I do. And so it impacts how when I read a book, I see things in a particular way. And then whenever it's on screen, it's a different person's adaptation. And so it ends up conflicting with...
It's not your vision. It's not your Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly. Before this job, I didn't watch a lot of TV or movies, like for entertainment or stuff like that. I would maybe like reality TV or something like that. But I was not a movie goer. So I feel like after 5 years of consuming content, it's easier for me now to be like, yeah, I'll watch it because I can kind of put it in a different part of my brain. But before this job, there was no compartmentalizing the content. It was just straight conflict with whatever I had read or whatever I knew of materials, like specifically with fan-based stuff like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. So me 5 years ago, I would be really scared. Me today, I'm just like
chill.
I hope they don't. I hope that they have fun with it. I hope it's good quality. But my bar is so high for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get nervous for anyone.
Yeah. Well, do you know what period of time they're attempting to cover?
I know nothing about it.
Cool. So the title of the first one, I think they've done a deal to do 2, and it's Peter Jackson still. Andy Serkis is directing the first one. That's Gollum.
Oh, the first one.
Yep, definitely the first one.
No.
It's going to be called The Hunt for Gollum, and it apparently takes place after Bilbo's birthday. You know, there's that, you probably know this better than I do. There's a 17-year gap after Bilbo's birthday before Frodo goes on the adventure with the ring. And it takes place there where Gandalf is collecting information with Aragorn about Gollum. So that's the premise of the movie. It's covered by 2 paragraphs, apparently, in The Lord of the Rings. And yeah, so it's going to be the Hunt for Gollum. I'm kind of excited. All of that sounds great to me.
I'm nervous. Here's why. They're obviously going to be bringing in new actors to play.
I don't know. Vigo can still play Aragorn, for sure.
They need to bring in new people.
What's wrong with Vigo?
There's nothing wrong with him. I think that certain people, movie making is strange. People age.
You think Sir Ian McKellen's going to die, don't you, before he can be Gandalf again?
We all saw what happened with the wizard from Harry Potter.
Yes. Who I think both have died now. The original and the replacement, Michael Gambon. I
am not ageist, but as we age, it becomes more and more difficult to do anything, to like act,
not with computers,
to speak. I know, but I kind of, if they're gonna do a lot of like high tech computer de-aging and everything, like why not just pay someone to take up a character, and then we all just get to kind of imagine, okay, this is Gandalf in this age. This is because I'm more concerned with the Gandalf character than Vigo. But
the problem is, like, this is right in Fellowship, so recasting would feel strange. For me,
who cares? Because all these films are just different films.
Yeah, I guess so.
We all want to go back to the magic of when those movies came out. You know,
want to recapture it,
but we can't. So make new magic is what I'm saying. Those movies were produced how many years ago? 20 years ago?
23 years ago? Yeah.
So a 60-year-old Gandalf is now an 80. You know what I'm saying? Like Sir Ian McKellen is aged. Like
he hasn't
a quarter
aged
of a decade.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't aged. He stays the same. He's
Gandalf
always been
lives
60
forever.
His whole life.
Put somebody else. I want them. When I saw the Rings of Power
Gandalf, yeah.
Put him in there.
Yeah, that would be great.
That'd be fucking awesome if they did that.
Awesome. I want more Rings of Power.
Hopefully they do something kind of unique here. bring in a new Gollum voice. Give somebody else a chance to bring something
I was with you up
to life.
until this point. Andy Serkis is Gollum.
Andy Serkis is God. He is amazing.
And that's what gives me, I would be hesitant if even if Peter Jackson was directing this, I would be nervous. But knowing that Andy Serkis is behind it, he makes good movies, I think.
So him directing doesn't necessarily mean he's doing the Gollum voice, but also consider this. There are different Winnie the Pooh voices. There's different Goofy voices. There's different Mickey Mouse voices.
Yeah, no, fair. Completely. Yep.
There are epic characters that inspire other people to try to make that voice and do a great job. Employ them.
Yeah, it's true. No, I like the idea of Andy Serkis getting really possessive of the Gollum voice and it turning him evil.
And he becomes Gollum.
Yes.
Iris has been asking who would win a race. Catboy, who has super speed.
Okay.
Like who has cat speed or some kind of speed. Or Sonic. And because she lacks so much context of Sonic, but she watches PJ Masks all the time.
I was going to ask, is this PJ Masks? Yeah.
In her mind, I think that she knows that Sonic is a fast runner, but she doesn't understand Sonic.
He's an alien.
So she asks me this, and same exact thing that you did. Instantly, Sonic.
It's Sonic, yeah.
And she goes...
And is she rooting for Catman Boy?
Well, she's confused.
Right.
So then instead of discouraging her, I said, and saying you're wrong or anything, because I'm trying not to avoid raising a child that instantly says you're wrong.
Yeah.
I said, let's go ask Bobby and Bobby what they think. Oh, that's a great idea. So she runs outside and they both sit there. Now they do the thing that people who've lived longer know to do, which is sit and think for a while before answering it instantly. They're like, and they kind of are reading. They're trying to read her and read me. I'm not giving them anything.
Which one do you want me to win?
Yeah. And so they both end up saying Sonic. And she was again like, wow, okay. And then she starts thinking.
Very easy.
She goes, I guess you could be right. Catboy, he kind of goes, woo. And she just moves her arms really fast. But Sonic goes, shoo.
Yeah. Sonic is fucking out of there.
She keeps asking people.
Oh,
she's just checking in with others, and she's tallying in her head how many times. I think it's shocking to her that every single person.
It's like a landslide.
It's like Sonic.
Oh, no. I can't wait until she asks me now. I know it'll happen. Like, oh, it's Sonic. It's easy. I might blow her mind and say Catboy.
If you did that, I wonder how she would respond.
She'd be like, Ian's right. I just need one. I just needed one person to agree with me. Shady Antiquarium Archivist, Shady Antiquarium Archivist, Shady Antiquarium Archivist, Shady Antiquarium Archivist, Shady Antiquarium Archivist. It's not actually that hard.